You ruined it. You ruined the whole thing already. All right, then we'll say, Chaim, you missed a lot of good flavors last week. I just want to tell you, juniper something, whatever. It was mamish.
You missed a lot of Coke Zero.
All right, we'll say, let's go. We are up to. Where did we leave off? Balker. Always. No, we did Balkari, right? Did we get up to the 2 dots? I'm Rav Yehuda? Yeah, good, excellent. I'm Rav Yehuda. So we'll say Chafal from now 21a. Shmuel was a good try. Second set of 2 dots. Yeah, that's very true. I'm Rav Yehuda. Safek kara kriyashma, safek lo kara. What's an interesting case? You're not sure. Did you say Shema or didn't you say Shema? Right? Not sure if I did or not. What's the halacha? Eino chozer v'korei. Ultimately, again, you don't go back and read it again. Right? Safek, now we'll see why this is. Safek amar emes v'yatziv, safek lo amar emes, safek lo amar. What if happens if you're not sure if he said emes v'yatziv or not? Then what's the halacha? Chozer v'omer. You go back and you recite it. It's a strange halacha. So the Gemara says, "Emes v'yatziv my time." I don't understand, right? Why do you go back and repeat emes v'yatziv if you're not sure if you said it? It's very simple. The Gemara says, "Kriyas Shema d'Rabbanan." Fascinating, right? Kriyas Shema is only d'Rabbanan. Emes v'yatziv d'Oraisa. Emes v'yatziv d'Oraisa. Now both say, now why would emes v'yatziv, which is the bracha after Shema, why would that be d'Oraisa? So if you look at Rashi, almost right across from Rashi, emes v'yatziv d'Oraisa. Shemazkir ba Yitzias Mitzrayim techiyuva d'Oraisa. Dechsev leman tizkar es yom tzeischa me'eretz Mitzrayim. It's interestingly enough, in emes v'yatziv, there's a reference to Exodus, to Yitzias Mitzrayim, and there is an obligation every day to go ahead and remember the Exodus. So therefore, again, emes v'yatziv is daraisa, Shema is d'Rabbanan. Smar says, really, Shema is d'Rabbanan? Master Rav Yosef, ubishach b'chav kumecha. Pasuk says that you should say it when you go to sleep, when you get up. So we'll say, b'pashtus, that sounds like Kriyas Shema is daraisa. Amalei Abaye, hu b'divrei Torah ksiv. This is fascinating. Abaye suggests, b'shach b'chav kumecha, when you go to sleep, when you get up, is actually not a reference to Shema. Instead, what is it a reference to? It's a reference to Torah. That you should learn Torah both in the morning as well as in the evening. So the Gemara says, Tanan, Balkari, okay, I'm sure you're right. Right, Balkari. Right, so Tanan we learned, Balkari maharher belibo. But we learned the Balkari says, remember, this is our Mishnah. Right, the man has a similarly Mishnah, so what's the halacha? Takana says, he's not allowed to learn Torah until he goes ahead and goes to the mikvah. So what's the halacha? What does he do about Shema? Maharher belibo. He goes ahead and he cogitates, right? He thinks Shema in his heart. But he doesn't say it, right? He doesn't say any of the brachas before or after Shema. The alamazon, and about benching, or for food brachas, I should say. Ultimately, he recites benching, but he does not recite a bracha before he eats. Remember again, what was the logic there? The logic there was that benching is d'oraisa. Bracha rishon, the bracha before you eat is d'Rabbanan, and therefore the Zav is only going to do things that are d'oraisa, not d'Rabbanan. I says the Gemara v'isa l'aytcha emes v'yatziv d'oraisa livroch lachara. But if it's as you just said before that emes v'yatziv is d'oraisa, biblical obligation to emes v'yatziv because it contains a reference to Yetzias Mitzrayim, then my time mavarich. Then ultimately again, so I don't understand. So shouldn't one go ahead and recite the bracha? So the Gemara says, well, if it's because of Yitzias Mitzrayim, you already made reference to the Exodus ultimately again in Shema, right? So why not say emes v'yatziv and don't worry about Shema itself and fulfill the obligation ultimately again of remembering Yitzias Mitzrayim in emes v'yatziv and not in Shema. So the Gemara says, "Hakriya Shema adifa de ispeit harti." No, Shema is better. Why is Shema better? Because Shema contains both things. What two things? Number one, Shema has kabbalas ol ma'achushavim, acceptance of the yoke of heaven. That's number one. And number two, Shema also has Yitzias Mitzrayim. So because Shema has both of those things, therefore Shema has we'll call it liturgical superiority to emes v'yatziv, which doesn't have kabbalas ol ma'achushamayim, but only has zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim. Fine, so we'll say that is our first approach in this. That's Rav Yehuda. Comes along Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says, I disagree. He says, Safek kare kriyas Shema, Safek lo kara, chozer v'kare kriyas Shema. So what comes along Rabbi Elazar? And Rabbi Elazar says, If I'm not sure if I said Shema or not, the halacha is you go back and you say Shema again. Say Shema again. Safek ispalo, safek lo ispalo. What happens if a person is not sure if he daven Shmona Esrei or not? Right? Did I say Shmona Esrei, not say Shmona Esrei? What's the halacha? Eino chozer umispalo. You do not go back and daven again. Now I both say, now bepashtos, what's Rabbi Lazar's logic? Rabbi Lazar's logic is that Shema is the oraisa. Shema is biblical. Because remember again, as we said before, when the pasuk says, B'shach b'cha uvekumecha, that's not referring to Torah. It's referring to Shema. So therefore, there's a biblical obligation to say Shema by day and to say Shema at night. And therefore, if you're not sure if you said Shema or not, what do we call that? We call that a safek d'oraisa. And in general, when you have doubt regarding the performance of a biblical halacha, so what's the halacha, right? You're not sure, did I perform the mitzvah or not perform the mitzvah? What's the halacha? You do it again. On the other hand, if I'm not sure if I said Shmona Esrei or not, remember Shmona Esrei is D'Rabbanan. So what's the halacha if you're not sure if you fulfilled the rabbinic law? What's the halacha there? Ultimately, you don't have to do it again. So therefore, if I'm not sure, and both say this is halacha l'maisa, I'm not sure, did I say Shema, didn't I say Shema? Say it again.
Why, it's just reading Sukkah, meaning at the end of the day, you could do it all night long. The
question is, do you have to do it? Right? In other words, you absolutely can. The question is there an obligation or not? Right? But by Shmona Esrei, if you're not sure if you davened or not, you don't say Shmona Esrei again. That's a safek d'Rabbanan, doubt in rabbinic law, and that is resolved l'kula leniently. Now watch this. Rabbi Yochanan says, Ulevai sheyispala adon koyim kula. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, if you're not sure that you said Shmona Esrei or not, you definitely should say it again. Why? Because halavai, that a person should daven all of the time. Right? Halavai, a person. Now, both say, now, what exactly that means, we're going to have to see. We're going to talk about that more, because it's not so pashut. Remember again, davening requires the taking the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it's not so pashut that you could just do that whenever you want, however you want. So we'll have to see what that means, but let's go a little bit weiter. So both say, so now, and by the way, this second about Shabbat laws, this is how we paskin, right? We paskin that saying Shema in the morning and in the evening is a din d'oraisa, and therefore, if you're not sure if you said Shema or not, you repeat it. Conversely, Shmona Esrei is a din d'Rabbanan. If you're not sure if you said Shmona Esrei or not, you don't have to repeat it. So let's analyze a bit more. So it was another very interesting case. Rabbi Yehuda said in Shmuel, Hayomed b'tfila, if a person was davening Shmona Esrei, v'niskar she'espala. So I said, this is an interesting case, right? I'm davening Shmona Esrei, and in the middle of Shmona Esrei, I realize, I davened already, right? But this case, it doesn't speak to the level of kavan I have when I daven. But l'maisa, right? I caught an early minyan for mincha. I totally forgot about it. I came to shul, right? And I daven mincha again. I'm in the middle of Shemona Esrei for mincha. I'm like, this looks familiar, right? And then I realized, I daven early after. So what do you do in that situation? So what's the halacha? So posek b'afilu b'emtza bracha. So you stop even in the middle of the bracha. You stop. So the Gemara says, is that true? You stop mid-bracha? Rav Nachman said, Ki avina be Rabba bar Avua. When I was in the home of Rabba bar Avua, ba'in minei, I asked him the following question. Hani b'nei beirav, detau umitkari dechol b'shabes. What happens sometimes, I will say, what ends up happening? That somebody ends up accidentally davening a weekday Shmona Esrei on Shabbos. Right? I'm not paying that much attention, and before I know it, I'm in Rifa'inu, and I'm wondering, why is everybody done already, right? The Chazin's right. Chazin's already finished Kedusha. I'm still only, Rifa'inu, going through my Homish Berach list, and then I realize, it's Shabbos. So what do you do in that type of situation? Mahu sheyigmeru. What do you do? Do you finish, when I say finish bracha, what should you do? Va'amar lan, and ultimately, again, Rabbi said to us, Va'amar lan, gormin kol osa bracha. You finish that bracha. That's how the Chalav will say. You accidentally begin weekday Shmona Esrei on Shabbos. You finish up the bracha that you started again. We'll talk about all the parameters of this halacha. But you finish up that bracha, then you go forward. So we'll say. So now we seem to have contradictory halachas, right? What are the contradictory halachas? On one hand, you just said before that if I daven mincha earlier in the afternoon, now I come to shul, I'm davening mincha again, and I realize in the middle of Shemona Esrei, I davened mincha already. So what's the halacha? Stop. Stop right where you are. Stop mid-bracha. Don't go on. Stop. Just shut it down right there. Yet, it's Shabbos, and I realize I'm davening a weekday Shemona Esrei. So what did Rabbi say? What do you do? Finish the bracha. So why? Why don't I say like the same way that I stop kind of mid-sentence when I realize they're already davened? Why don't I do the same thing over here? It's Shabbos, I'm davening the Rosh Hashanah. Just stop where you are. Why in the first case do you stop in the middle of the bracha, and in case number 2, you don't? Why the distinction? What do you say? Oh, excellent. So listen to this. We'll say, Baruch Shekivanta, excellent. So we'll say, watch this. So the Gemara says, they're really very dissimilar cases. Listen to this. The Gemara says, Hachi hashtahasam gavra barchi yuvahu, v'rabbanan delo atcherchu mishum kavod Shabbos. Shabbos said, this is interesting. It's really, as Rabbi Derek was just mentioning before, there's 2 things happening over here. Number 1, in the Shabbos case, I haven't davened yet. Right? Remember again, in the Shabbos case, I haven't fulfilled my obligation. Not only that, but here's what I'm going to say. Really, you should daven regular Shemona Esrei and Shabbos also. We're going to talk about this more. You should daven regular Shemona Esrei. So why do we daven a shorter Shemona Esrei on Shabbos? Because Chazal, the rabbis wanted us to enjoy Shabbos a little bit more, right? You pick up a couple extra minutes for Kiddush, right? So Lamai says shorter Shemona Esrei, more cover Shabbos. So both say, so it's interesting. So really, you should be davening the whole Shemona Esrei on Shabbos. The rabbis took it easy on you. So there's 2 things happening over here. Number 1, in the Shabbos case, I have not yet davened. That's Aleph, that's number 1. Number 2, technically speaking, the weekday Shemona Esrei should be the same Shemona Esrei for Shabbos, but the rabbis relaxed the standards for Tefillah on Shabbos. So that's why the halach over there is that what? If you started the weekday bracha, what do? Finish it up. Finish up. So in other words, you would finish to the end of whatever weekday bracha that you're in, and then go from there into regular Shabbos Shemona Esrei. However, in the Mincha case, it's a totally different case. The Mincha case, we will say, what's happening, or what happened in the Mincha case? I davened already. In which case, the second Shemona Esrei that I'm davening is really for nothing. Well, in that type of situation, when the Shemona Esrei is for nothing, ultimately, what's the halacha? Just stop in your tracks. So we'll say, and that is indeed the halacha. The halacha is by Shabbos, if you find yourself in the weekday Shemona Esrei, you finish up the bracha that you're in, and then you go back to regular Shemona Esrei. The halacha is, if you're davening mincha and you realize, oh, I davened mincha already earlier today, technically speaking, you would stop right where you are, just stop Shemona Esrei. Now, the truth is, we're going to see that in that case where you realize that you davened already, there is another possibility. The other possibility is something that we call a tefillah nedava, which is like a gift tefillah, an additional supplementary tefillah that you have the ability to daven, as long as you're able to introduce something novel. So we'll get into that a little bit more, but there may be an alternative to this as well. Good. We have another minute, a couple of minutes. Let's go back to it a little bit. That's true also. Right. But in general, the difference in Shemona Esrei also is that Shemona Esrei is phrased in the plural. So even when we speak about not asking for not asking for things on Shabbos, it really is much more about individual things. So, for example, when there are communal needs, one is allowed to technically daven for those things on Shabbos. So technically, you could get away with the weekday Shemona Esrei on Shabbos, as well, since everything is phrased in the plural. So let's go back to a little bit. So let me just say outside. A tefillas nedav rabosai means, let's say just stam, right? Let's say I davened shachris mincha ma'ariv already. But now again, there's going to be another ma'ariv, and I feel compelled to daven again. So you could daven another Shemona Esrei. That's called a tefillas nedava. But in order to daven a tefillas nedava, you have to introduce something unique. What does it mean to introduce something unique? I don't know. You add in a petition, a request for something you don't normally ask for. Or you daven for someone who you don't normally daven for. So in that way, it's a gift tefillah. It's something additional. So I'm just pointing out over here that in this case over here, where I daven mincha early, and then I totally forgot. I came to shul, I'm davening mincha again, and I realized in the middle that I've davened already. So that the core halacha is you stop. You just stop where you are, and that's it. Technically speaking, if you're able to transform that tefillah into a tefillah standard by adding something unique, you could continue through with the Shemona Esrei as well. Okay. I don't know if you know Shmuel. Was another interesting case. Hispalo, v'nichnas lebeis hakneses u'matzah tzibur shem hispalolin. So we'll say, interesting idea. So this is exactly now this next piece. I walk into shul, and I find that the tzibur is davening. Now, both say, now in this case over here, what it sounds like is I davened already, I davened already, but I walk in and I find that the tzibor, the congregation, is davening. So what do I do? Im yochel lechadish badavar yachzor v'yispalel, v'im lav al yachzor v'yispalel. If you're able to introduce something unique, then you could daven again together with the tzibor. That's what we call a tfilas nedava, gift tefillah. If you can't introduce something unique, then don't daven again. So the Gemara says something interesting. The Gemara says, "Utzricha." I need both of these cases. Now, which are the two cases? Case number one, I will say, is where I davened already, and then I start davening again, and I realize, I did this already, and I stop right in the middle. Case number two is I davened already, I walk into shul, the tzibor is davening. Now, again, if I could introduce something new and unique, I could daven with them again. Why do I need both these cases? Watch this. Because if we would have just had the first case, Hani mili yachid v'yachid, I might have thought, I will say, what's the case over there? I daven mincha by myself, right? And now I start davening a second mincha by myself, not forgetting that I davened the first time. So in that case, that's where we tell you, shut it down. So the Gemara says, Kaf Alpha base 21b, tzibor v'tzibor. Or for that matter, again, I davened with a minyan beforehand, and now again, I forgot that I'm davening with a minyan again. So the two tefillos are the same. That's when if you realize you davened already, you shut it down. Aval yochid legabe tzibor. But I will say, what maybe I would have thought like this. When I daven the first one, I say by myself, right? I daven the first one, and then I come to shul afterwards. So that second tefillah is the tefillah b'tzibor. Keman delot salidami. Maybe I will say, when comparing the second opportunity to daven with the tzibor to my first opportunity where I davened myself, maybe the first tefillah is like it didn't even count. And therefore I should certainly go ahead and daven with the tzibor. Kamash malon, no. Kamash that if you davened already, even if you davened by yourself, and now you find yourself with the minyan, you shouldn't daven again. Furthermore, again, I will say, if we would have just said the case over here, because you didn't yet start to daven. Aval hasam da'aschil ba'emalo, but maybe in the case where you began to daven, you should just finish it up. Kamash malon loves, therefore lo tzricha. Therefore the Gemara teaches us that no halacha l'maisa in both cases. Again, suppose we emerge with two halachas. Halacha number one is that if you daven mincha, you forgot you daven mincha a second time, you realize in the middle of the second shemona, say, what do? Stop right where you are. Stop right where you are, and unless, of course, you could turn into a tfilas nedava. You walk into shul, you daven already. I daven mincha already. I walk into shul, they're davening mincha. If I could introduce something novel and daven a tfilas nedava with the tzibor, wonderful. But if you can't introduce something novel, then there is no need for you to daven a second time. Shkoyach.